let's look at the lesser played and discussed games that, although they don't impact on the main story, are still Metal Gear games at heart. Starting at the bottom, I will be ranking the non-canon games from worst to best. Quick side note, I'll not be including Metal Gear Rising or Portable Ops, as these are canon and always have been. Also, this is why they are on my list in my very first video. Also in that list, so not making an appearance here, is the Twin Snakes. Finally, there is no Social Ops, because it was only released in Japan and I can't even find that much footage of it, so yeah. Starting at number 8, Metal Gear Solid Touch. A retelling of sorts of the events of Guns of the Patriots. This is essentially Metal Gear Time Crisis. It's just a shooting gallery where you aim and shoot using the touchscreen of your Apple phone. That element is very good, and the game even tries to incorporate some of the bosses, including all of the B&B core. Text between stages fills in some story, and there's even the fistfight with Ocelot at the very end. But it's got no stealth and doesn't really feel like Metal Gear. You couldn't really transfer its gameplay to any of the other games in the saga. Number 7, Snake's Revenge. The first ever sequel commissioned and made, arguably made more of an impact on the series than any other game simply by existing. If not for this game, we likely may never have got Metal Gear 2. The first Kojima-led sequel. This then kick-started the rest of the saga. But what of Snake's Revenge as a game? Well, I am excited that it will be part of the first Master Collection volume, but that is more due to games preservation than anything else. It is a lesser version of the NES Metal Gear, which is a lesser version of the MSX original. It's cumbersome, way too difficult, especially at the start, and these side-scrolling sections, well, need I say more? Number 6, Metal Gear. Speaking of the NES version of Metal Gear, I was unsure whether to bother having it on this list to discuss, but it's too different from the original not to include it. It more closely matches the MSX game, so it's better than Snake's Revenge, but it does everything worse than the MSX version. Due to slight changes in the map, it's far too easy to walk into alerts, especially when leaving a truck. Lots of items and elements have been changed or removed, and there isn't even a Metal Gear unit. Granted, the TX-55 didn't move, but at least we got to see it. Number 5, Metal Gear Solid Mobile. This game is the closest one to possibly being canon. Set as a simulation in between Metal Gear Solid 1 and 2, Snake infiltrates a base with Otacon as his mission support. It's essentially a philanthropy mission. The gameplay is as similar to Metal Gear Solid 1 as they could get it, and really isn't all that bad for a mobile game. Maybe it should be included on the Master Collection going forward. You can even use your phone's camera to create custom camouflages for Snake, leaning into elements from 3 and 4. To top things off, it even has a boss. Other than the lack of accessibility, its main downfall is the length of the game, and the clunky controls causing more alerts than foreseen by pretty much anyone that plays it. Number 4, Metal Gear Survive. I think I may upset a few people here. I have always maintained that Survive is a good game, but that it's not a very good Metal Gear game. Any sort of stealth is largely pointless, and base infiltration isn't really required in the normal Metal Gear way. What makes it even less like Metal Gear is the story, and its vague attempts to link it to the Metal Gear timeline. Had this been released as a new Konami IP, although it likely would have sold less, it would have been better received in general. That said, any excuse to play around in the Fox engine is fine with me. And once you accept the goofiness and just move past it, you get to play a pretty solid game. Sorry, I had to. Metal Gear this ain't. But that's okay. Sort of. Number 3. Metal Gear Acid. Right, these next entries will vary wildly in people's opinion based on their love or lack of love for strategy games. This doesn't play like a traditional Metal Gear due to the card-based element, needing a deck of cards to perform actions and even move around the board. I understand that those who don't like this style of game will have little time for it, but I quite like them, and for me it added a new layer to Metal Gear. Thankfully, the game has a whole host of interesting characters and a great story full of twists and betrayals, and of course, a deadly weapon. Unfortunately, it also has one of the worst Metal Gears ever. It has very little threat to it and takes an age to kill. But that aside, it is a good game, and for those that don't like strategy, I would say at least watch a playthrough for the story alone, just to experience it at least once. Number 2. Metal Gear Acid 2. The story is inferior to the original. It's just way too wacky and out there, even for a Metal Gear game. Where this does shine though, is in the gameplay. Every little snag from the original is ironed out here for a smoother experience. Not only that, but you have more cards to choose, opening up a lot more options, and you are able to level up your cards to give you even greater freedom. Honestly, if it were possible to play Acid 1 with Acid 2's gameplay, that would be the perfect combination. But as it stands, the greater gameplay in 2 far outweighs the lesser story to the original. Number 1. Ghost Babel. This is the closest thing to the games in the Canon saga. It plays as a cross between Metal Gear Solid and Metal Gear 2, and gets so much out of the Game Boy Color. Without this game, I am skeptical that Portable Ops would have been made 6 years later. And without Portable Ops, Peace Walker may not have happened either, or at least not as we know it. Therefore, this game likely had the largest impact on the main saga. The game itself acts as another alternative sequel to the original Metal Gear, sending Snake back into the field 7 years later. Again, there are the prerequisite twists and turns and betrayals, and the ending was even setting up a potential war between two very powerful characters that influence this game's plot throughout. Who knows, maybe if Konami are feeling brave, they could still tackle a sequel. But to be honest, I would take a port over to the Master Collection Volume 2 when the time comes. So there we are. All of the non-canon Metal Gear games ranked from worst to best. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Is Survive ranked too high? What should be in the top spot? If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. If you wish to, please support me on Patreon from only £1. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.